I'm 95 years old. My name is Arthur Calloway. I fought in the Korean War, buried friends in foreign soil, saw 19-year-olds die without ever truly living, and survived it all just to end up here, in this chair, with knees that don't listen to me anymore, and eyes that see less with every passing morning, but with a clarity in my head that I never had when I was young, strong, and full of wasted energy. That clarity comes at too high a price. It only comes when you no longer have enough time to make use of it. That's why I'm here. Not to give you good advice, not to tell you a pretty story that will make you smile and sleep soundly. I'm here to shake you up, to look you in the eye and tell you what I wish someone had told me when I was your age, when the whole world was in front of me, and I threw away every day as if I had an infinite stash of them hidden somewhere I could never find. You are scattered. I know you are. You don't need to tell me. I see in you the same thing I saw in myself and in every man I've known throughout my life. You're trying to do everything at once, running in 10 different directions, opening tabs on your computer, answering messages while trying to work, planning 5 projects that never get off the ground, thinking about what's for dinner while trying to be present with your family, existing in 10 places at the same time, and deep down not truly being anywhere. And you call this productivity. You call this being ambitious. You call this seizing opportunities. I called it that too. I fooled myself the same way. And I only stopped fooling myself when life taught me a lesson you can't forget, the kind that leaves a mark, the kind you carry until your last day. It was the winter of 1952, and I was 22 years old inside a muddy trench in North Korea, with the cold cutting across my face like a razor and the sound of artillery echoing through the mountains every night. In that war, I learned a lot about what matters and what doesn't, but the deepest lesson didn't come from the battlefield. It came from a man named Theodore Wells, a sergeant from Ohio who was 34 years old and whom everyone simply called Ted. Ted was the kind of man you looked at and felt safe. He had broad shoulders, a calm voice, eyes that seemed to have seen everything and were no longer scared of anything. He had a wife at home named Ruth and 2 small sons, one 6 and the other 4. And every time he found a moment of silence in that hell, he'd pull a battered photo of the 3 of them from his coat pocket and stare at it for a few minutes without saying a word. One night, while we waited for an order that was taking too long, I sat next to him and asked what he was going to do when he got back home. He folded the photo carefully, put it back in his pocket, looked at me, and said something that stayed etched in me forever. He said that when he got back, he was going to stop trying to be everything to everyone and was going to choose just one thing. He was going to be present for his family. Just that, nothing else. He said that before coming to the war, he worked 12 hours a day, held 3 jobs at once, tried to pay off the house faster, tried to save for his kids' college, tried to help his brother who was in debt, tried to be the best employee, the best neighbor, the best at everything. And at the end of the day, he'd get home too exhausted to truly look at his children, too tired to sit beside Ruth and simply be with her. He said he was present physically, but absent from everything that mattered, and that the war had been the only place where he managed to understand this clearly, because when you are 1 second away from death, all the smoke clears and you see only what is essential. Ted Wells didn't come home. 3 weeks after that conversation, during an advance into a region the maps called Hill 255, but which we called by names far less polite, he was hit and died in less than 10 minutes, his head resting on the arm of a 20-year-old boy who was crying and didn't know what to do. I was less than 30 meters away. I heard him call Ruth's name once, just once, and then there was silence. I kept his photo in my own pocket the next day, along with a letter he never finished writing to his sons. I handed it to Ruth personally when I returned to the United States. She opened the door, saw me in uniform, and knew before I said a word. I won't describe what happened in that moment because some things don't need to be described. You already know. But what I carry from Ted isn't the sadness. What I carry is the lesson he saw before dying and that I took years to actually apply to my own life. Because look at the irony. He told me all that night. I heard it, thought I understood, survived the war, went back home, and did exactly the opposite of what he taught me. I spent the next 15 years trying to be everything at the same time. I started a business, then tried to expand into another sector, then accepted an offer to work at a big corporation, kept my own business running on the side, went to night school to get better qualified, tried to be present in the lives of my 2 children, tried to be a good husband to my Dorothy, tried to help my aging father, tried to maintain friendships, tried to take care of my health, tried. And the result of trying so much was that I did nothing with excellence. I did everything halfway. I gave half my attention to Dorothy in the years she needed me most. I gave half my presence to my children in the years that never come back. I gave half my effort to the business that could have been great if I had truly bet on it. I did a little of everything and did nothing for real. And when I reached my 50s, I looked back and felt that specific emptiness of someone who lived long but never went deep. There's a huge difference between a long life and a deep life. Most people are obsessed with the first and completely ignore the second. You want to do everything, see everything, have everything, experience everything. But at the end of the road, what remains isn't the quantity of things you touched lightly. What remains are the few things you dove into head first. The relationship you watered with attention every day. The work you did with soul and not just with effort. The friendship you nurtured over decades. The son or daughter who grew up knowing you were really there, not just physically present, but truly attentive, really seeing who he or she was becoming. That is what stays. That is what you will replay in your mind when you are where I am now, at 95, staring out a window and trying to distinguish what was real from what was merely movement. I need to tell you about something I realized over time and that no one will tell you, because everyone surrounding you has an interest in keeping you scattered. Distraction is a lucrative business. It always has been. Back when I was young, distraction was simpler. It was newspapers, the radio, television, neighborhood gossip, the race for social status. Today, distraction has evolved to a level I can't even fully comprehend, but which I see in the eyes of the people who visit my children and grandchildren. You have a device in the palm of your hand built by extremely intelligent and highly paid engineers whose sole objective is to ensure you are never silent enough to truly think. They studied human psychology, understood your brain's reward mechanisms, and created a system so efficient at capturing your attention that you open the app without even realizing you decided to open it. It's automatic. It's a reflex. And while you are in that world of images and videos and opinions of people you will never meet, your real life is happening outside, without you, carrying on without your presence, without your attention, without you. And you call this productivity. You call this being ambitious. You call this seizing opportunities. I called it that too. I fooled myself the same way. And I only stopped fooling myself when life taught me a lesson you can't forget, the kind that leaves a mark, the kind you carry until your last day. If you want proof that scattering is one of the biggest thieves of human life, I'll give it to you. Think of someone you admire deeply, someone who built something that really matters, an artist whose work touched you, a scientist who changed the world, a father or mother who raised extraordinary children, someone in any field who left a real mark. Now tell me, do you think that person got where they got by trying to do 50 things at the same time? Do you think they became great by being average at everything? No. Every person who has ever built something that lasted did so through a brutal and deliberate choice of focus. They eliminated what wasn't essential to be able to dedicate themselves totally to what was. They paid the price for that choice, because every choice has a price. They let go of other possibilities, other paths, other versions of themselves that were never realized. And they did this consciously because they understood that trying to hold on to everything is the guarantee of building nothing that lasts. Let me be even more direct with you, because I no longer have the patience or energy to beat around the bush. You are afraid. That is what's underneath all this scattering. Fear is the root. You split yourself in 1,000 directions because you're afraid of choosing wrong. You're afraid of betting on one thing and discovering it wasn't the right one. You're afraid of closing doors. You're afraid of regret. And so you keep opening all possibilities simultaneously, touching everything superficially, committing to nothing fully, and calling it versatility or having many talents. But the real name for it is fear. I know because I had the same fear. In the war, I learned not to fear bullets and bombs, but I never learned, not for a long time, not to fear choosing. To commit to a direction and walk it even without a guarantee of arrival. That is the kind of courage life demands of you every day. Not the dramatic kind that appears in extreme moments, but the silent and persistent kind that requires you to look at what matters most and say yes to that and no to everything else. I want to tell you about the time I finally learned this lesson the way I needed to learn it. I was 58. My Dorothy had a serious health problem. Nothing that would kill her immediately, but something that demanded care and presence. And I found myself facing a choice that looked simple from the outside, but inside was the hardest I'd ever faced off a battlefield. I was at the peak of a work project that could change my life financially forever. Partners waiting for me, meetings scheduled, an opportunity that wouldn't come back. And on the other side was Dorothy, needing me to be home, present, awake, attentive. I spent a whole night without sleeping, thinking about the two paths. And early in the morning, with the weak sun still coming through the bedroom window, I looked at her sleeping beside me and made the decision. I called the partners, explained the situation, and walked away from the project, completely, without negotiating a middle ground. I chose her. I chose to be there. And the next 2 years were the most present and real of our entire life together. We talked for real. We resolved things that had been left unresolved for decades. We laughed in ways I didn't remember I knew how to laugh. Dorothy got better. She recovered her health over time. And the project I walked away from? Another one appeared 2 years later, different, equally good, and I took it. But what would have been lost if I had chosen the project that morning? What would have remained in the void forever? There is no version of this world where those 2 years come back. This is the thing about choices that no one tells you when you're young. The world convinces you that you can do everything, that you can have everything, that if you're smart enough, you'll find a way not to give up anything. It's a beautiful lie, one of the cruelest that exists, because it keeps you paralyzed waiting for a solution that will never come, a magic formula that lets you hold everything at once without losing anything. There is no such formula. Every real choice is a real exclusion. When you choose one thing, you are saying no to another. When you say yes to staying late at the office, you are saying no to family dinner. When you say yes to one more project, you are saying no to deepening what you already have. When you say yes to one more hour of screen time, you are saying no to an hour of silence where you could hear your own thoughts and discover who you really are underneath all this noise. The question isn't how to avoid choosing. The question is choosing consciously, knowing what is being left behind and making peace with that. I want to give you something practical to take from this conversation, because talking about wisdom without any concrete application is just pretty words that vanish the moment you close this video. So pay attention. Number 1. Sit down today, literally today, with a piece of paper in your hand and write a single sentence answering the following question. If I could focus on just one thing in the next 12 months, one thing that would make the biggest real difference in my life, what would it be? One sentence, one thing, not a list, not 5 items, one. And then look at your calendar and your current commitments and honestly see how much of your time is being dedicated to that thing compared to everything else that occupies your days. The difference between that number and what it should be is the size of the problem you have. It's not judgment, it's a diagnosis. Number 2, practice saying no. I know it sounds simple and that you've heard it before, but you aren't practicing it. You're listening and nodding your head and continuing to say yes to everything that shows up. Every time you say yes to something that isn't essential, you are stealing time and energy from the thing that is. Saying no is an act of respect for what matters most in your life. It isn't selfishness. It isn't a lack of generosity. It is a declaration that you take seriously what is valuable enough to protect. The people I respected most in my life, the ones who built something real, all of them had an extraordinary ability to say no gently but firmly, without over-apologizing, without feeling obligated to justify every refusal. They practiced this as a daily discipline, and they created space for what was essential to breathe and grow. Number 3, and this is the hardest of all, face the silence. You run from silence because silence forces you to find yourself, and you aren't sure who you're going to find in there. The constant noise, the endless flow of information and entertainment and news and opinions, all of this serves as armor that protects you from sitting with yourself and asking if the path you are following is really yours or is just what seemed reasonable at the time you started and never stopped to question. Spend 15 minutes a day in real silence. No phone, no music, no podcast, nothing. Just you and your thoughts. In the beginning, it will be uncomfortable. The brain will want to escape to any available distraction. Let it try and stay anyway. Over time, the silence will give you answers you will never find in any app or video or book, because they are answers that only exist inside you and that never reach the noise you create around yourself. Number 4, the last one I'll give you because I'm getting tired and because 4 is already more than most people will actually apply. Value depth over speed. Our era has a sick obsession with speed. Everyone wants quick results, quick learning, quick success, quick relationships, and this hurry guarantees superficiality in everything. You learn superficially, relate superficially, work superficially, and in the end, you have a thin layer of everything and nothing truly built. Depth demands time. It demands repetition. It demands that you stay with the same thing long enough to go beyond the surface and discover what is underneath. The musician who practices the same chord until it comes perfect. The gardener who knows every plant in his garden by name. The father who is present enough to know not just the name of his son's best friend, but what that friend is like, what makes him happy, what scares him. Depth. It is the opposite of what the world around you is selling, but it is the only path to a life that in the end will seem to have been worthwhile. If this conversation made any difference inside you, if you are going to leave here with at least one different decision, a commitment to focus that I didn't have the courage to make when I was your age, then do me a favor that isn't for me, it's for you. Leave a like on this video and share it with someone you know who is lost in distraction, who is running in circles without getting anywhere, who needs to hear this before it is too late to change course. And if you want to keep hearing truths that few people have the courage to say, subscribe to this channel. Because I don't know how much longer I'll manage to do this, and while I'm here with enough clarity to speak, I want every word to be worth something in someone's life. I am 95 years old. I carried the photo of a dead friend in my pocket for months. I walked away from money to stay beside the one I loved. I messed up for decades trying to be everything at the same time. And I learned, late, but I learned, that a whole life of scattering isn't worth a single year of real focus on what truly matters. You have what Ted Wells never had. You still have time. I don't know how much, no one knows, but you have more than he had. Don't waste it. Choose. Deepen. Stay. The world will keep trying to pull you in 10 directions at the same time. Resist. The life you want to build is waiting for your undivided attention, not for the half of you that's left over after everything else, the whole you. Now go. I've done my part.